what you have with Spurs is you just don't have a culture. Like, there is no winning culture in that club. There is none, because I don't think they can identify what winning is. They don't know what winning is, and this is and in order to change culture, you need strong characters. You need very strong characters, and you need strong characters in influential positions who are given the backing, in a sense, in order to change that culture. Jose Mourinho, perfect man. They got rid of him. All right, you fucked up. You go again. Antonio Conte, perfect man. You fucked up again. Right. Okay. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Two Foot Tackle Podcast. I'm your host, Ari Stamatakos. We are back again as I adjust the audio levels on this. Probably should have done this pair recording, but I digress. We're back. I'm just going to go like that. Hopefully that's loud enough. Because I noticed when I was editing it, or not editing, when I was chucking it, when I was doing all like the social clips and stuff last week, it was slightly quieter than usual. So hopefully I've changed that. I can see it on the bar still not being as loud. So we'll go like this. Hopefully that's loud enough, and hopefully it's not peaking at etc. etc. But maybe when I start to get a little bit more animated, potentially in the back end of this podcast, it might become that. But regardless, I waffle on for too long. We're back again. Another episode. International break, so not a whole lot to speak about. Some things did happen, which we'll touch on as well. So maybe a shorter episode, and I can almost guarantee this will be a slightly shorter episode, probably under an hour. I say that every week. This will be shorter. But yeah, hope everyone's well. Hope the week's treated everyone nicely. Before we kick things off, I implore you all to subscribe to the YouTube channel, like all the videos, notification bell, all that's good stuff. We're 13 subscribers away from 400. So yeah, before April 28th, it would mean the world. And I know it's not a big milestone. I know we're not that far off, but just it keeps it ticking over, and it keeps it's good on the eyes. It's good aesthetically. It's a very much a vanity metric, but at least it looks good. But yeah, so 13 more away. So share it around. Get your mum, your dad, your dog to subscribe. Would mean the world. And of course, all audio platforms as well: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Anchor. 5-star reviews, all that good stuff, and share it around. It would mean the world. We're back again. Like I said, international break. So, a couple of things to chat on as I bring up the run sheet on my phone. A couple of things to chat on. So yeah, not a whole lot of club football, but we are going to be speaking about some club happenings. Antonio Conte has been relieved of his duty, so we're going to speak on that, some potential replacements. We're going to speak on the goalkeeper rule change as well. Some questions that have been brought in via some people through the socials. And then we're going to recap the Socceroos game. 3-1 win over Ecuador, which was great. And then, of course, we'll do some previews of what's to come throughout the week, and we'll just chat. This will be a lot more of a chill episode, just sitting back, chilling, talking, chatting shit. It's gonna be very much relaxed in this podcast. But yeah, let's kick things off, and let's kick things off with Antonio Conte. So Antonio Conte this morning, I'm pretty sure, was relieved of his duties as Tottenham Hotspur manager. It came off what we spoke about last week it came off the back of what we spoke about last week with the where's Tottenham? Oh yes, there we go. It came off the back of last week where we spoke about his press conference at the back of the Southampton game, which was just another truly bizarre turn of events. But Spurs did make a official statement at 10:20 p.m. Sunday, the 26th of March, Australia time. We can announce that head coach Antonio Conte has left the club by mutual agreement. No worries. He achieved Champions League qualification. We achieved Champions League qualification in Antonio's first season of the club. We thank Antonio for his contribution and wish him all for the future. Christian Stellini will take the team as acting head coach for the remainder of the season, along with Ryan Mason as assistant head coach. Chairman Daniel Levy, the chairman, says we have 10 Premier League games remaining, and we have to fight. We have a fight on our hands for Champions League place. We all need to pull together. Everyone has to step up to ensure the highest possible finish for our club and amazing loyal supporters. Brief, not very in-depth announcements as you would expect. There's been briefer ones in the past, so I guess you have to give them credit for that. But yeah, this really wasn't a shock to a lot of people, as those who kind of understood what was going on. It was a very obvious kind of, he's gonna go very, very soon. If it wasn't now, it'd be at the end of the season. And I think I said I said when he eventually came, I didn't think it was gonna last. And Spurs somehow can get their hands on on a gem that is Antonio Conte, who, if you give him the resources, if you back him, if you give him the environment to succeed, one of the best managers in the world at doing that. So it is quite weird and concerning how they still somehow manage to not bottle that, but still somehow manage to just not be successful. It's quite bizarre. It is quite bizarre, and I mean, when we take a look at his tenure, he like they said, he came in the back end of last year. I'm not mistaken in that, am I? I'm not mistaken in that. I think he came back in the back end of last year. Let's just double check. So he came in halfway through the season, I'm pretty sure. Or am I completely misremembering all of this? Here we go. Let's go to the Wikipedia, shall we? So he came on in the back. He came on as coach at the back end of last season. Back end of last season? Yeah, he did. Yeah, back end of last season. So the 2nd of November in 2021. So he signed an 18-month contract with an option for a future year. So that 18-month contract was expiring at the end of the season. So we kind of expected him to not resign, especially to not sign on, especially considering the way that his tenure kind of progressed. Yeah, so he signed it at the end of 2021, which was the back end of last season, and we saw kind of the initial, or the glimpses of something pretty good, and the glimpses of something pretty special. Like they said in the statement, they qualified for Champions League for the first time in a couple of years, for the first time in two seasons, or maybe the season before they missed out. That was obviously good for them, and they had a very, very good kind of transfer. I wouldn't say transfer window, but they had a pretty exciting transfer window coming into this season. Of course, signing Richarlison, Jed Spence, Yves Bissouma, Longley on loan. They obviously making the signings permanent of Bentancur and Kulusevski as well. So they had a very, very promising kind of transfer window, and people thought that with this stringent 3-4-3 system and the signings that they were able to bring in, a lot of people thought that'd be very good. Ivan Perisic as well is another fantastic signing for them. And I even made the statement pre-season. I mean, there is a clip on the YouTube channel that is, I think, the most viewed clip on the channel. If they had signed someone like a Lorenzo Pellegrini, that they would be challenging for the league, and that was kind of the rationale behind that clip, and the rationale behind why I thought they needed one more kind of just like kind of fist in palm kind of motion, like that impact burst sign, like that impact high profile output driven signing, and I think Pellegrini was a player like that. But we've seen that nothing really seems to be connected up front. They are very reliant. Well, last season they're very reliant on Kulusevski towards the back end of the season. They signed Richarlison for however much it was, 80 million, and he has not hit the ground running in the sliders. Has yet to score a Premier League goal for Tottenham, which is insane considering the high profile nature of his signing, considering the fact that he plays in a very good club who dominate games more often than not. They're still so reliant on Kane. Son hasn't really hit his straps. He's been underperforming this season. Their defence really is very structure driven, and when that structure breaks down, you need to be able to rely on individual talent to bail you out of games or bail you out of situations. And having Eric Dyer, I know Christian Romero is a good signing. Christian Romero is a good player. I do rate him, but having Eric Dyer, Ben Davies, Longley, who is good but not great, having them in that defence, they don't have the ability to compensate for little bits of structural errors throughout the game. And I think that's what we see. That's what we saw, the difference with this team, or with Conte, with his time in Chelsea. We saw a difference between that and this time, or his time at Spurs, and I'll touch on that a little bit. But the defense was poor. The midfield just seems very stagnant. There just hasn't been that like that oomph behind anything. And I think it was a means to an end to Antonio Conte's kind of tenure at Spurs. Like I said at the start when they brought him in, I didn't think it was going to last, and I didn't think it'd end in the way that it did. I thought he maybe last for 18 months and then move on and get a job in Italy somewhere again, or even to another Premier League team, or even to Spain or Germany or whoever. So yeah, I guess we'll just I guess there's a wait and see game of where he goes from here. Obviously, he's had his health issues as well, so maybe that had something to do with it. I don't know, but yeah, it is not surprising. Very Spursy the fact that he's left in the way that he has. But yeah, I think Spurs now need to move on as a club because we can speak about them all day, and I probably will speak about their culture a little bit later on. But I think it does have to be looked at. It does have to be looked at because the common denominator is very, very set now. Like there is a very clear common denominator, and it's not the manager, it's not the players. It's maybe it is the players. I don't know because they have had a little bit of they have had the same core for quite a while. So maybe it is the players. I don't think it is, but you never know. But I think it's the club. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see on that regard, and obviously who they bring in as well. Who do they bring in? It is quite interesting as to who they bring in. Of course, there's a couple of people that my mind's going straight to, and I'll touch on that a little bit later. But the reason why I brought up Conte's time in the Chelsea, and wanted to compare that is because a lot of people I think had a lot of unfair expectations on Spurs, and looking back at it now, I think I did as well. I think I had some unfair expectations around Spurs as well, considering their squad wasn't that good, especially when you're relating it to the potential, or especially when you're relating it to what Conte has done in England in the past, and that was, of course, with his time at Chelsea. Now, Chelsea, like, he took over a Chelsea squad that finished 10th, but it was not a 10th place squad in the slightest, right? He came into a side that it would have been Thibaut Courtois in goal Thibaut Courtois in goal. John Terry was at the twilight of his career, didn't really play, but yeah, David Luiz, Cesar Azpilicueta, Gary Cahill, like three very good centre halves. Like people forget. I mean, David Luiz, we all know his talents, especially in the back three at his prime. He was very, very good. Azpilicueta is a stalwart of that Chelsea team for quite a while, and he's a very, very solid player. And Gary Cahill, I think, has gone very, very underrated when it comes to Premier League centre backs. I think he was very good. When we look at the midfield double pivot, you had Matic, Fabregas, Kante. Take your pick between any of those. Fabregas, we all know his talents. Kante, we all know he is, and Matic, in his prime, was one of the best kind of defensive central midfielders in the league, potentially even the world at his best. He was that good. And then the front three, take a pick: Pedro, Willian, Hazard, and of course the piece de resistance of Diego Costa up front. It was really a season where everything just clicked, and the talent was unbelievable. So when you compare it, and of course either fullback, Marcus Alonso and Victor Moses, turned into some of the best fullbacks in the world, right? Or wing backs in the world. So when we take a look at the squad comparison, I think it's unfair to expect the same of Conte in saying that he has underperformed. He has massively underperformed. But I don't necessarily think it's his fault. And this goes back to what I was going to say about Spurs' culture. Like, Spurs' culture is just... What is it? Like, what is it? Because it's just not, like... I don't even know how to describe it. Like, I really don't. Because... How does this keep happening? Because... they last won a trophy in 2008. I think that was on the Red Nap. Correct me if I'm wrong. In the comments, if you're watching on YouTube, and if you're listening on Spotify and you know the answer, go over to YouTube, like the video, subscribe, and then comment who it was. But I think it was on the Red Nap. And since then, they've just gone through a lot of managers, and none of them finding success. I think Sherwood was after that. He didn't do anything. Villas-Boas was after that. He didn't do anything. Poch kind of took them to their greatest ever success, being the best Premier League side over 2 calendar years and not winning a title. This is quite something. And then, of course, taking them to the Champions League final. Took them to a League Cup final as well against Chelsea, which they lost. So he took them quite far. Couldn't quite get over the line. He had a bad 4 months, and they got rid of him. They brought in Mourinho. one of the most successful managers in history, a born winner, and they still couldn't win anything. Then they brought in, Espirito Santo, was that it? Yeah, Espirito Santo. Wrong fit at the wrong club at the wrong time. I think he's an okay manager, just a wrong fit. And then they brought in Conte, who is in a very similar mold to Mourinho in terms of his kind of intangibles. When you look at the tangible stuff, when you look at tactics and philosophy, etc., you hire Mourinho, Espirito Santo, and Conte. Three of the more defensively minded managers in world football, maybe Diego Simeone aside. I don't think you could name me more defensively and kind of structure-based managers in the world, which I know obviously my knowledge on Spurs' history is very limited for very obvious reasons, because of my club allegiance and also based on the fact of my age and where I live, right? But from what I hear, stories and hear stories, hear tales, listen to people, listen to podcasts, watch kind of documentaries and shit. The Spurs kind of were built on a club when they weren't as good in like the mid-90s and where they were just kind of existing in the middle of the Premier League table. They had this kind of extravagance about them, or this flair, this flamboyance about them. Maybe that's kind of been exaggerated in latter years as nostalgia kind of tropes or nostalgia. I'm just gonna umbrella all as nostalgia things, as I can't quite think of the word for it. But as nostalgia is quite often exaggerated and is quite often blown up to be what it isn't. That may be something that's happened here, but from all I know, Spurs were for the longest time a club that built their kind of system on being flair based and being exciting to watch. It may not lead to results, but it's exciting football, and I feel like this translates back to the culture, right? Because in culture is very hard to implement, especially when the previous culture has been very weak. I'm not saying Spurs' culture previously was weak, but what drives a club's standards and what drives a club's expectations is culture, and this is who we are, and identity. Chelsea, perfect example, right? Under Roman Abramovich, the culture was win at all costs, win. Hence why. Frank Lampard, you're having a bad 3-month period, sacked. Rafa Benitez, you're having a bad period, sacked. Carlo Ancelotti, you just won us the you just won us the double and had our most successful, or like won us a double and had our best attacking team ever or something like that. Scored over 100 goals in that season. Yeah, not. I think he got sacked anyway, but he was let go anyway, right? Same with Mourinho, second time round, sacked halfway through the season. It's win. It was win at all costs. Maurizio Sarri, right? Maurizio Sarri, you won us a Europa League, and you finished top 4, not good enough, sacked. That was the culture, and yeah, it wasn't. I wouldn't say it was a great culture because it was ruthless at times, and sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't work. Antonio Conte, great example, right? You won us the league, you finished 5th and win an FA Cup, sacked. So it's one of those things. But what you have with Spurs is you just don't have a culture. Like, there is no winning culture in that club. There is none, because I don't think they can identify what winning is. They don't know what winning is, and this is and in order to change culture, you need strong characters. You need very strong characters, and you need strong characters in influential positions who are given the backing, in a sense, in order to change that culture. Jose Mourinho, perfect man. They got rid of him. All right, you fucked up. You go again. Antonio Conte, perfect man. You fucked up again. Right, okay. What do they do? What do they do from here? They need to look at themselves in the mirror and identify who they are and what they are. Are they a big club? Are they a Chelsea? Are they a Liverpool? Are they a Manchester United? Are they an Arsenal? Are they a club of that stature? Or are they an underdog team? Are they the plucky underdogs? are they the best of the rest? What are they? Because there's no right or wrong way of going about things. It's just that you need to pick a way and coach towards that, recruit towards that, build your culture around that way. Chelsea were, I wouldn't say Chelsea pre Abramovich were, especially in the latter in the like in the early 2000s, late 90s, Chelsea were the best. I wouldn't say best of the rest, but Chelsea were a pretty good team without being exceptional. It was Arsenal, it was United at the top of the heap. Then you had Chelsea floating around that like sixth to third place. A couple of FA Cups, a couple of European trophies as well. They're about self-floating, right? They were good without being great. Abramovich comes in, influential person in a position of power, a powerful person in an influential position. Bang, culture changed. We are now going to become the best. And 2 decades later, Chelsea are one of the best, if not the best, right? In terms of club. I know right now we're shit, but you know what I mean. Same with Arsenal. Arsenal have had that Arsenal have had that thing of being the best for so long. They kind of faded away with that in recent years, but now with Arteta, bang, he's got that culture back. They're the best. United, for 30 years they were the best. They've gone through a slump. Now with Ten Hag, they're back. They want to be the best. Liverpool, early 70s, 80s, the best. Went through a little bit of a slump. They were still winning. They went through a bit of a slump and were still winning Champions Leagues. They are bang, under Klopp, success. We're the best again. Man City, I mean, yeah, it was money driven, but they're now one of the best, right? Spurs have been middling. Not bad, good without being great, and then back to middling. Where is that shift to saying, you know what, fuck it, we're going to become one of the best? Because Newcastle are going to get there soon. Newcastle are going to overtake Spurs in the ranks if they don't fucking hurry up, right? So they need to identify what they are. Are they going to sit back and look at themselves in the mirror now and say, we are one of the best clubs in England, or we are one of the best of the rest? And that's fine if you're the latter. If you're the latter, that's fine, because then you coach towards it, you recruit towards it, and you build your philosophy around it to cement your position as that, and then you kick on. And then you kick on to what eventually should be the idea of being the best. So that is what Spurs need to figure out. Spurs don't know who they are. They don't know what they are, which is an issue. Because who do you recruit? Who do you go out and buy? What's your philosophy? What's your spending tactics? How much youth, like how much value do you put in youth or whatever? Like, you need to be united as a club on one vision, and they aren't that. You could say hiring the acquisition of Antonio Conte is a very telltale sign of being a club that wants to be the best. I would agree, but for a club that wants to be the best, they don't really play towards it. They don't really coach towards it. Their philosophy really isn't being the best. You can have the ingredient, like I can have 3 eggs, a cup of milk, 200 grams of flour, 100 grams of sugar, or whatever. I can have all these ingredients. It's not a cake, though, is it? Like, it's not a cake. I've got all the ingredients. I just haven't made it to be a cake, so you can't call it a cake. Spurs have all the ingredients to become a big club, but they aren't a big club. That's the issue. That's the issue that they need to kind of... That's the issue that they need to fix. That's the issue that they need to fix. As my camera refuses to focus on my face. There we go. Yeah, I can have all the ingredients for a cake, but as long as as long as that cake isn't made, it's not a cake. In the same kind of degree as Spurs can have all the ingredients they want. They can have a good coach, great stadium, spending power, great players, leadership. Probably the only thing they don't have is trophies, but they're still not a big club because they haven't put it all together. It takes time for other. It takes time for some. It takes longer for others. I think that's one of the things that they need to identify. Now, in saying that, in the way that they identify it, one of the ways is who they bring in to replace. They've said till the end of the season, so we're going to assume that the signing won't be made till the end of the season. I don't think it should be made till the end of the season because it's March and there's no point. But who do we bring? Who do we bring in? Who do they bring in? Who do they bring in? If they seriously want to contend for next season, if they seriously want to be a side that... There's one or two ways you can go. You can either look at the squad you've got now and think, we're a chance, we can challenge and we can contend. All it needs is minor surgery. then you bring in someone like Mauricio Pochettino. Then you bring someone like that in. Because I know he was able to transform Spurs, and that you could see actually. Maybe you don't bring in Poch if you want that. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe if you want winning right now, Ancelotti is a manager that could be an option, and a lot of people are saying how could he leave Real Madrid to go to Tottenham? It's the Premier League. Teams will come to the Premier League, right? Like the drawing power of the Premier League is absurd. So if Tottenham come calling to Carlo, I reckon there's a good chance that he might go, especially considering Zidane's an option to replace him at Madrid. So, and also he's not been that. If he doesn't win the Champions League, it's a very big possibility he could get sacked, which is absurd. So, he's an option. Fucking Zidane himself is an option. I doubt he'd go, but he's an option. But apart from that, you got Poch, who's probably in the middle ground of being able to develop a squad, but also being able to get into success. But if you wanna lean all the way one way, I don't really want to say this guy's name because it would torture me. But as much as I hate it, and as much as the thought of it makes me sick, Ange Postecoglou could be the perfect manager for Spurs. And the thought of that actually happening makes me sick, like violently ill, like actually violently I'm going to throw up at the thought of that. But I think about it and I say, it just makes sense. Like, it makes sense. It's risky, and it's bold, and it's going to piss a lot of people off. But in order to be great, you have to be bold. And you have to be willing to put your neck out on the line, and you have to be willing to take risks that not a lot of other people are going to take. And hiring a man who's been doubted his whole career and has been told he's not good enough, and has been told he won't, and has been told he's not good enough for his entire career. It's almost a little bit of like a perfect match. You have Tottenham, the perennial underdogs, who have been laughed at for so long by everyone externally of the football club. And then you have Postecoglou, who, forever an underdog, had to do it the hard way, had to kind of drop everything and go overseas and risk a lot in order to go to Japan, leaving his home nation, going to Japan, and then he had to risk a lot going to Scotland, going to one of the biggest clubs in Europe. It's almost a perfect match. And once again, the thought of it makes me sick, but if you want anyone to be able to rebuild that squad, and if you want here's the thing. I spoke a lot about culture. Spoke a lot about being able to rebuild culture. Ange Postecoglou is a man who is extremely confident, and that is what a club like Spurs need. They need a man at the helm who is just going to do it his way. It's his way or the highway, and if you don't like it, get stuffed. And that is the man that they need. The board needs to back him in that as well. But while he may not have the experience at the top level, he has the experience at sticking the two fingers up at the doubters and saying, I'm doing it my way, and my way is going to work. He rebuilt Celtic into a team that was a basket case. Granted, they finished second, but I reckon my local five-star team could finish second in the Scottish League, with all due respect. And he rebuilt that Celtic team into one of the best Celtic sides in recent history, right? Even it probably, like, I'm not too clued up about Scottish football, but that the team that won 9 in a row, I would assume this side would challenge it all the way, if not beat it, right? So there's that, and he's also shown that he's not afraid to step up to the plate. He's not afraid to step up to the plate and really risk a lot to get what he wants and to be successful. I think it's a very good match. I really do. As much as I think Spurs are a shit club and I think Ange is a great man, I think it's a great match. I think it is, and it would be scary to think what Ange could do if he's given the right support and given the right backing. Because the thing is with Spurs is that they can't claim to be a big club. Like, with all due respect, they can't claim to be a big club for the reasons I just said. They have all the ingredients, but they haven't put it together. So, I can have a bunch of raw dough, some tomato sauce, some cheese, and some salami, but I can't call it a pizza unless I put it together. And that's what Spurs are right now. They're a bunch of ingredients without having it been put together. And I think Ange is a man that could conduct a way in order to get all those ingredients and put them together for them to become a united club again. Because I think Poch did that. Poch had that, but Poch was a victim of almost his own success in a way, because he was so good for that club that the club thought that they were better than him, when really it wasn't that. Like, the club should have held on to Poch big time. So maybe the idea is to go back to him. But I think Ange could be it, which is scary. Scary to think about, because, oh god, I wouldn't say scary, just annoying to think about, because I don't want Ange to do that to me. Yeah, like, it's very greedy of me, I know. But yeah, I really don't want Ange to do that. I'm thinking about it now and it makes me sick. That's why Ange can stay at Celtic for the rest of his career. Get him as far away from the Premier League as possible, because I wouldn't want him to coach Chelsea. I wouldn't want him to coach Chelsea because I wouldn't want him to coach Chelsea because I would be so invested. It would kill me. Every single game would kill me. And I don't want him to coach any other team, because that means I'd have to cheer against him and I would kind of want his failure. So, anyways, Spurs. Maybe they should go and get him. If not, go for Poch and be boring and be safe and probably get back to winning ways. That squad also does need a whole lot of rebuilding. Let's actually look at the squad quickly. Who's gonna be in their next their first Premier League winning team? Who's it gonna be? And it's gonna be, let's get through it. Who are they versing? Are they not playing this week? Oh, they're versing Everton. Let's look at their squad. So you got Lloris, Forster, Austin, Whiteman. I don't know a whole lot about them. I know Alfie Whiteman. I signed him in Football Manager 1 year. They're okay. They won't be in the next Premier League winning team, or their first Premier League winning team. Davies, Dyer, Longley, Sanchez, Sessegnon, Romero, Royale, Tanganga. Royale probably. Romero probably. Royale maybe. Tanganga maybe. Sessegnon maybe. The rest probably not. Midfielders: Perisic, Son, Lucas Moura, Højbjerg, Bentancur, Basuma, Skip, Kulusevski, Porro, and Papessar. Perisic no. Son probably not. Maybe Lucas Moura no. Højbjerg probably not. Bentancur maybe. Basuma maybe. Skip maybe. Kulusevski probably not. Porro maybe. 23. Actually, I actually don't mind Pedro Porro. Is he on loan? Surely that has to be. If he's only on loan, that's stupid. Surely there's a buy clause on that. If he's on loan, then obviously not. But if they sign him permanently, then maybe. And then Papessar probably not either. There we go. And then Kane, Richarlison, Danjuma. No on all of them. Kane's going to leave before they can actually win it, which is probably a good thing for them to move on. But yeah, their squad needs rebuilding. Their squad does need rebuilding. So I guess it's just one of those things where we have to wait and see how they go about it. Because, yeah, it's going to be interesting. Going to be interesting as I yawn because I'm very tired. And, yeah, apologies for that. I say I'm very tired. I have no excuse to be tired. I got like 9 hours. Yeah, so I've really got no excuse to be tired, but maybe it's just my body clocked on funny things to me. Let's move on. So let's move on to a kind of a thought that was sent in by my good friend Dominic. I want to be able to pronounce. I want to be able to get your last name right, Dom, if you're listening, because I have mild dyslexia, so I don't actually know in which order the letters of your name in your name are. Is it Crenidi or Cretini? What are we? Crenidi. There we go. Dominic Cranidi. There we go. Apologies for that, Dom, if you're listening. But yeah, good friend of mine basically sent him speak about the goalkeeping changes, the rules for the goalkeepers. That the IFBA or whatever it is are introducing going to be introducing. I think it's absolutely stupid because it just takes away. Yeah, it's just fucking dumb. Here we go. From July 1st, IFAB rule changes have prevented goalkeepers from taunting during penalties. Goalkeepers can no longer touch the goalpost or the net, delay execution of the penalty, unfairly distract the taker, and behaviour that fails to show respect. So you know how we speak about VAR. This will correlate, trust. You know how we speak about VAR for ages? Like we speak about VAR every week, it seems, and there's just so much wrong about VAR that takes away the pureness of the game. This is what this is doing. We are, in the same way that VAR is making human error, or the idea of VAR is to make human error kind of null and void. In reality, it's just created more of it. So maybe it's actually counterproductive and it's actually good for the game. But in the way the VAR is trying to remove all human error and human variables to the game, this is what this is doing as well. It's basically making goalkeepers robots, and it's like it's not allowing for the dark arts of football, which is probably the best part of football. Like when I watch a game, I get so much more excited and so much more pumped and so much more intrigued when there's a last ditch tackle where someone takes out the guy's legs and gets a red card and gets sent off. It adds a bit of spice, adds a bit of flavour, adds a bit of I want to watch and I'm intrigued and I'm invested by this game kind of factor, rather than just having 22 robots run around kicking a ball into a goal and not being able to celebrate. In the same way that taking off your shirt is the yellow card for taking off your shirt is stupid. This is exactly what it is. It may not seem like much. But they're going to keep adding up. All these stupid rule changes are going to keep piling up until 15, 20, 30 years from now, we're going to be looking at football and thinking, what the fuck is going on? This is literally 22 robots who cannot show any emotion, who cannot be anything other than model perfect citizens when they're on the football pitch, which is stupid because when you take a look at some of the best players or most loved players ever to play the game, they're players with personality, they're players with uniqueness about them, like Ronaldinho, unique, Paul Gascoigne, unique, right? These players are unique because they were able to show their personalities. They were able to be flamboyant, be extroverted on the football pitch. Same way Emi Martinez. People hate him. A lot of people hate him, but a lot of people love him because of what he did in that World Cup final. A lot of people love him for it because it's like, mate, get in the head of your opposition. It worked. It absolutely worked, and he won him the World Cup. Emi Martinez won Argentina the World Cup because of his ability to perform the intangibles better than anyone else. And they're removing that layer from the game, and it's going to make the game worse. It's going to make the game worse comfortably. And also the fact that goalkeepers are already disadvantaged in penalty shootouts is ridiculous. Like, players can start a step, they can stop, they can hop, they can skip, they can jump, they can pause while they're taking a penalty, whereas goalkeepers can't move. It's just ridiculous. It's fucking so stupid. And yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, you're just killing the game. Like, you are just killing the game. Why are we letting I was speaking about this with a I was speaking about this with a good friend of mine, Pommy and Oz, who's actually been on the podcast before. And I do a live show every week for Blue Abroad, AFL football. For those overseas, don't worry about it. For anyone in Australia listening, head over to Blue Abroad for an AFL show every Wednesday night on the Blue Abroad YouTube channel. Anyway, I was doing the show with him, and we were speaking about things that happened in the AFL sphere, and he basically made the comment that we need to stop letting upper class, middle-aged people make decisions about a working class game. Football is for the working class. It's for the average person. It is for people who... It's for the average person. It's for people who are... It's for the local... It's for the common man. Football is for the common man. So the fact that we're letting... Hold on, wait 1 second. Apologies for this. I'm actually going to pause very quickly. I've just got a call and I need to take this for 2 seconds. So I'm going to pause. I'm going to be back. Okay, I'm back. Apologies. Anyway, I was saying, football is for the common man, right? Football is for the common man. Football is for the working class. That's how it was built. That's how it was published. That's how it was brought. That's how it's become the biggest sport in the world, right? So we need to stop letting blokes who don't know what the fuck they're talking about and don't know what the fuck they're doing making crucial decisions, because no one wants this rule. No one wants this rule, and it may seem minuscule, it may seem small, but it adds up. Like I said, it adds up. It becomes we're just adding this kind of minor rule, which really doesn't affect a whole lot. Like my football watching experience is not going to be heavily diminished by this rule change. But what it represents is it represents the game slowly dying. The pureness of the game slowly dying. That's my 2 cents on it. And we need to stop letting people who don't know what the fuck they're talking about ruining the working class game. That's what it is. I say, yeah, anyway. I digress. Let's move on. So what are we going to speak about next? Oh, yeah. So this was another question sent in on Instagram by my good friend Daniel Lavosa, who has been clamouring for me to speak about this club for ages. So I will, Daniel, if you're listening. I will. Basically, he asked what the best footballing story of the season is. Now, I know exactly the club he wants me to speak about, and I'll speak about that club in a bit. But it actually was a good question. And I think a couple of clubs sprung to mind. Firstly, the obvious one was Arsenal. The obvious one was Arsenal for me. Obviously their rise from being the rise back up to the top of the table, 10 games left. They're all but likely to win the league. In a competition where it's rich, unloaded with money, and it's just suffocated with money. Arsenal have done it pretty much. They've done it quite kind of on a budget in a sense. I know they spend money, but like in the grand scheme of things, compared to City and United and Chelsea and all these clubs, they do it on a budget, which is actually pretty good for them. So yeah, they're probably a great story. They're a great story of the year, of the season. Arteta kind of proving all the haters wrong. Saka emerging as one of the best young players in the world. Xhaka turning himself into a very handy player after being a laughingstock for so long. Like Saliba and Gabriel becoming one of the best defensive partnerships in the world, etc., etc. Arsenal definitely are a great story. Another one that came to mind was Wrexham, of course. We all know their story. Obviously, signing Ben Foster as well recently, coming out of retirement to rejoin Wrexham, who he played for in 2005. I want to say. Correct me if I'm wrong. Once again, I think he was on loan for them in like 2005 when he was at United. I think so. So there you go. That kind of goes full circle, and of course their ties with. We all know their ties as well with the people who own them and etc. I think it's a good story. It's not like let's not pretend that it's a club doing it the hard way and kind of coming from deep, like an underdog story. It's really not an underdog story. Like they spend a shit ton of money in comparison to the rest of their league, but it's kind of good to say from an external perspective, like, oh right, they're actually like. Instead of it being, look at how Man City, Liverpool, United, Arsenal, it's like, oh, Wrexham are like doing something as well, which is quite cool. And it adds another storyline as well to football in England and football just generally. So yeah, they're definitely going to go up. I reckon they're going to go up top as well. So they're definitely another story. Another club that came to mind was Union Berlin, a club that has been perennially in the second division for so long. Has come from basically I wouldn't say nowhere this season, but they currently sit third, 5 points off Dortmund, who are top, and obviously they were in the Europa League. They got knocked out, unfortunately, by the club by another Union club in Belgium. So hopefully they can they can maybe shock a few people, or shock a lot of people, and potentially challenge Dortmund and Bayern all the way for the Bundesliga title. That would be great to see. Obviously, another club in the Bundesliga that could have had a good story was SC Freiburg. Of course, they lost in the DFB Pokal Cup last year in the DFB Pokal final against Leipzig on penalties. They're a club that has never won a trophy in their history, like a major trophy in their history. They lost in the final last year, in one of their very few finals that they've been to. They're fourth in the league. They're in the semi-final. They're in the quarterfinal. Yeah, quarterfinal of that cup competition again. They're versus Bayern, so it'll be interesting to see whether they can get the job done. But they were on track to mounting a title race, or mounting a title challenge. They sit 7 points off Dortmund, so it'll probably be a tough ask for them. But yeah, that'll be a great footballing story, no doubt. There's obviously some other stories as well. I could really go through a lot when we go to we won't go to that league just yet. When we go to La Liga, of course, there's stories obviously everywhere, and it's also the other side of the spectrum as well. We've got a club like Valencia, who were inside the relegation zone by a point. A club that has been, like, when everyone thinks of Valencia, they think of a club that's in that upper mid kind of top 7, top 8 in La Liga, in European competitions, but they sit in the relegation zone, so that would be big if they go down. A big club going down in a big league would be something. And then obviously in League One, you've got Will Still managing, who obviously we all know the story about him, and I actually haven't touched it. I actually haven't touched on it in this podcast that often, but everyone knows the story of Will Still managing Reims in France. Went on, I think it was a 15-game unbeaten run, was it? Something like that in the league. Their last league loss, barring the most recent loss, was a 3-0 loss to Monaco in September. They've lost 2 games since. One was a friendly, one was in the cup, but they lost most recently against Marseille in the league. So they've got an unbelievable run. We all know his story, playing football manager, youngest manager in the top 5 leagues, etc., etc. Being fined 22k a game for him not having a license. So there's that story. So there's also the story of Marseille pushing PSG all the way. They sit 7 points behind with some games to go as well. So that's going to be interesting. But the main story, and the club that I think wanted to be spoken about when this question was asked, was Napoli. Now, my good friend Daniel has been busting my balls to basically speak about Napoli for ages on this podcast, and I thought, why not? Let's have a chat about them. Let's speak about them and what they've been able to do. And if he's listening, he's probably going to hate me for saying this, but the league is pretty much all but wrapped up at the moment. I don't know how many points clear they are. They are... Where are we here? I can get the table up. Yeah, they're 19 points clear. It would take the capitulation of all capitulations for Napoli not to win the league this year. Is it even mathematically possible? Yeah, it's still mathematically possible for them not to win the league, but like they have to win the league from here, right? It would take an almighty crumble. So yeah, they're obviously probably the story of the season, considering their team as well. When we look at, before we even touch on the 2 main men up front, I think it's going to be. I think there's a lot more stories around this club than what a lot of people think there are. Obviously, it's a club that there's not a lot of star names. They're built heavily around like a possession-based kind of structured system, but it's also very fluid, and they get the best out of their best. They get the best out of their best players, which is what the best clubs in the world do. And you've got to take your hat off to them. Of course, the 2 main men, obviously Victor Osimhen and Kvaratskhelia. They could probably sell both of them for 300 million combined. Like, it's absurd. Kvaratskhelia, I think, signed for like 10 mil most recently. I don't think it says on FotMob here, but he's got 12 and 10 in 23 starts. 22 years old, playing off that left wing, just so talented, so talented, like one of the best players in the world right now by far. And I think the story of Victor Osimhen is one that's gone under the radar. Like, had a massive price tag slapped on him when he got signed from Lille, and he was a player that a lot of people thought, like where like Napoli signed him in 2020. When people looked at Osimhen when he was at Lille, a lot of people were like, yeah, he's played for the future. Yeah, we'll keep an eye on him when he's like 24, 25. He's 24 now, turning 25 at the end of the year. In late December, he scored 21 goals in 21 starts, or 21 goals in 22 starts. He's a player that a lot of people thought was a flop for Napoli early on in his career. Didn't really hit the stripes. Didn't really hit the kind of impact that he wanted to. 10 goals in his first season off 16 starts, 14 goals off 23 starts. So good records without being great, especially with the price tag that was slapped on him. A lot of people did think that he was going to... A lot of people did slam the label of flop around him or on him, whereas now 21 in 22... with a couple of games quite a few games to go, he could definitely hit 30 goals in the league, and I don't know how many he's got in all competitions, but the fact that Napoli are probably going to go deep in the Champions League as well. They're on that very nice side of the draw with both Milan teams and Leipzig, I'm pretty sure. I'm just going to double check that quickly. Yeah, they're on the side with both Milan teams and Benfica. That's it. They're on that side, so they won't verse a big club until the final. Should they get there, I think they are going to get there. They're a massive chance to do the double, like a big chance to do the double. And I can't remember the last time a team has. When was the last time the team has done the League and European Cup double? It probably would have been Real Madrid at some stage in that early 20s or that early to mid 2010s. It would probably have to be them. If not, I think Inter did it in 2010. Probably Bayern did it the year that they won it in 2013. But it hasn't been done in a while, and I don't think it's been done by... I don't think probably Inter was the last Italian side to do it. So Inter was the last Italian side to win the competition. So it will be a fantastic story for Italian football. It'll be a fantastic story for the region or the city of Naples. Is it a city or is it a region? Is it a what's it called? It's a province. Is it a province? I don't think it's a province. But I just like to say that word, to be honest. But yeah, of course, we all think, when we think of Napoli, we think of Maradona. We think about what he was able to do for them, winning the league for them. Obviously, what's happened to him in recent years, obviously passing away, and the fact that Napoli have been so close so many times. Last year they were close. The year before that, I'm pretty sure they were close, or maybe the year before that. But yeah, if they were able to get it done, it definitely would be the story of the year, and I think they are. And yeah, there you go. There's your mention, Daniel, if you're listening. But yeah, Napoli, great story. Hopefully they can go all the way. And hopefully they can really make a lot of people proud and make a lot of people. It's one of the good stories in football, especially when Italian football's been dominated by the same clubs for about 2 decades. It's good to see Napoli up there and really giving a lot of people something to be proud of. So there you go. Let's finish things up by speaking on the Socceroos game very, very briefly. Of course, they play again tomorrow night against Ecuador, so they probably would be starting by the time this is out. They start an hour and a half after this comes out, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. So, obviously, they played on Friday. 3-1 win. Comfortable stuff. The lineup was Ryan, Deganek, Sousa, Rouse, Beige, O'Neill, Mobile, Bacchus, Goodwin, Irvine, Duke. So, quite a few of the Socceroos players that played at the World Cup there. Obviously, the back four was the back four that started, I think, the game against Argentina, I'm pretty sure. Obviously, Goodwin, Irvine, Duke all started. Bacchus, I think, started a game, and Mobile and O'Neill did not. But it was good to see. It was good to see the boys get a run around. It's disappointing about the crowd. I think Australia needs to find a home of football, a proper home of football, because when it was our best ever finish at a World Cup, and the reception that the Socceroos players got at the game, when you look at the attendance figures, it doesn't sit well with me. Like, it doesn't sit well with me. I mean, but speaking of a biased perspective, we saw how packed and how energetic Fed Square was throughout the World Cup. If that game was played, obviously, yeah, like depending on the crowd for the game in Melbourne against Ecuador, I think Football Australia needs to be looking at Melbourne as the home for football in Australia, because the crowd on Friday night, disappointing considering the fact that it was the Socceroos' first time in Australia since the World Cup, and even before the World Cup they hadn't been in Australia for ages, so it was a pretty poor reception. Hopefully the reception can be better. I'm recording this before the game on Tuesday, so hopefully that can be better, and hopefully Football Australia can really nail down the marketing and nail down the kind of appeal of having a home base for the national team, and potentially in Melbourne, because I don't think Sydney is the place, just based on what I saw on Friday night. I don't think it is, but it's good to see them back in the country, and it's good to see from the people that were there the reception that they got. When we take a look at the people that came off the bench, Robertson, Tilio, Qual, and Barella came off the bench. I'm pretty sure that was it. So yeah, it was good to see. Good to see Barella getting an assist. I'm pretty sure Robertson and Tilio also getting a run around, which is great. Good to see Robertson getting into the Ecuador player and host suits are coming in to fly the flag, which was quite funny to see. But yeah, it was a very entertaining. Went back and watched it. I didn't watch it live, but I went back and watched it. Went back, watched the highlights, and watched some clips from it, and listened to the fallout of it, etc. And by all accounts, a pretty good performance against a pretty good nation as well. So comfortable throw win. I know it was a friendly, but hopefully Australia can do the same tomorrow night. This will go up before the game starts, but probably most of you will listen after the game has happened. So hopefully Australia can get the job done and get all 6 points, even though it's friendlies. Yeah, let's finish things up with a preview. Obviously, football is back this week. Obviously, club football is back this week, I should say. City versus Liverpool, which we thought at the start of the year was going to be very crucial. Turns out it's not. But apart from that, nothing really that interesting. United versus Newcastle is quite interesting. Battle for top 4, but yeah, I guess we'll just have to wait and see. So there we go, under an hour. There's your quick podcast for you. But yeah, thank you very much for watching. Again, make sure you subscribe to the 2 Foot Attack podcast. Like I said at the start of the podcast, all the socials, all the socials. YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, all that good stuff. Subscribe on YouTube, like all the podcasts, like the clips, notification bell so you don't miss out on any clips or any shorts or any episodes. Anchor, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcast. Would mean the world. 13 subscribers away. So yeah, that would mean the world. So yeah, thank you very much. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for sticking around. See you guys next week. Speak soon and goodbye.